Good evening. This is a regular City Commission meeting for the City of Largo. Today is Tuesday, October 17th, 2023. I'd like to call this meeting to order and ask that if you have a cell phone, please turn it to off or silent so that we don't have any interruptions. The City Clerk asked for Mr. Kovar, who is supposed to be giving our invocation today, and I still don't see anybody that's saying they're Mr. Kovar, so I will give the invocation. And then if you could please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Dear Lord, we come to you today to honor you and remind ourselves of your pivotal places in our lives. We ask you for your blessings on this meeting. We ask that your wisdom would guide us as we seek to accomplish the goals on today's agenda. Thank you for the opportunities you give to us to serve you and to serve others. May our actions and our attitudes please you this day. We pray these things in your name. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Before we get started today, I'd like to introduce somebody that may be a new face to you up here on the dais, and that's our new city manager, Mr. John Kerp. So let's give him a good long round. An empty seat up here as well, so Commissioner Gerard will be joining us virtually, so I'd ask for a motion to allow Commissioner Gerard to participate virtually.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Welcome, Commissioner. And I think you're up in traveling in D.C. representing us up there, so thank you for doing that.
Yes.
The first item is a ceremonial item. We have a few ceremonial items today. And today we are recognizing the 50th anniversary of the Largo Area Historical Society. Chartered on October 17th, 1973, the Largo Area Historical Society is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that was established with the purpose of providing and promoting education, research, and the preservation of historical places of interest and documents while fostering an appreciation and understanding of the rich history of our community. Since its founding, the Largo Area Historical Society has grown to a membership of over 300 individuals committed to reliving, sharing, and upholding the legacy of Largo. The organization actively engages with the community through its monthly meetings at the historical Largo Feed Store and Museum, organizing the annual Cracker Lunch, and hosting open houses on the first Saturday of every month to showcase its historic collections to the public. The Historical Society participates in many year-round activities and events held locally and continues to carry out special projects designed to chronicle the stories, people, and buildings that comprise the area's early history. The City of Largo recognizes the important contributions of the Largo Area Historical Society over the last half-century in its noble mission to help preserve the memories of the past for future generations. And as a frequenteur of the Largo Historical Society meetings, it's always great to see a group of my friends from the Largo Historical Society here with us. So while we're reading the proclamation, I'm going to come down for a picture with some of the members of the Historical Society.
Whereas the Largo Area Historical Society is a nonprofit organization chartered under Florida law on October 17, 1973, and whereas the Historical Society has devoted 5 decades to providing and promoting education, research, and preservation of historical places of interest, documents, heirlooms, and to encourage the appreciation and understanding of area history, and whereas the Largo Area Historical Society has been a guardian of the rich history of Largo, with its roots extending back to 1843, when the McKay brothers, pioneers of Largo, first settled here, and citrus and cattle served as the economic backbone of our fledgling city, and whereas under the guidance and leadership of longtime Largo resident and former city clerk Sadie Johnson, a group of civic-minded citizens gathered with the intent of promoting Largo's historical legacy, which was at risk of being forgotten as our city evolved from a small town into a modern urban center, and whereas the Largo Area Historical Society was officially established in 1973 Miss Sadie Johnson served as the first president, and over the past half-century, the organization continues to flourish with a membership of over 300 individuals united in their commitment to preserving the memories of the past, including about 50% of members having graduated from Largo High School. And whereas the Historical Society has made an indelible mark on our community through its cherished newsletter, The Wisecracker, the annual Cracker Lunch, monthly open houses, and carrying out vital projects aimed at preserving the memories and heritage of our city. And whereas the Largo Area Historical Society remains a beacon of civic engagement, education, and remembrance, its dedication enhances our appreciation of Largo's history and culture to ensure our city's rich legacy is safeguarded for future generations. Now, therefore, I, Woody Brown, Mayor of the City of Largo, Florida, and on behalf of the City Commission, do hereby proclaim this day on October 17, 2023, as the 50th anniversary of the Largo Area Historical Society in the City of Largo, and commend its members, both past and present, for their unwavering commitment to preserving our community's rich history and for fostering a deeper connection among our residents.
Thank you.
I know there's some other members. That's why.
Go ahead, sit down now. Yeah, grab hold of that. That's done.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Do one more. And 3, 2. Thank you.
I'll have 32-15 by 21. Charlie, you know, all you got.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Thank you. So next, we'll have a proclamation declaring October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Whereas during National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, the City of Largo recognizes domestic violence, also known as intimate partner violence, as a public health issue that impacts individuals, family members, friends, and coworkers across our city. And whereas the impact of domestic violence is felt not only by individuals and families, but communities and a nation as a whole. And whereas on average, nearly 20 people per minute are physically abused by an intimate partner in the United States. During 1 year, this equates to more than 10 million people. And whereas domestic violence affects people regardless of income, race, gender, culture, or socioeconomic status, still women make up a disproportionately higher number of victims of domestic violence. And whereas homes should be places of comfort and stability where love and mutual respect thrive, domestic violence erodes this environment, leaving many individuals in potentially life-threatening situations. And whereas the City of Largo stands with victims, our law enforcement officers, social workers, professionals, educators, and other brave individuals who are focused on protecting families and communities from domestic violence. And whereas the City of Largo joins with others across the state of Florida and nationwide in supporting domestic violence victims and survivors, the advocates and organizations who serve them, and holding offenders accountable in the City of Largo. Now, therefore, I, Woody Brown, Mayor of the City of Largo, Florida, and on behalf of the City Commission, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2023 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the City of Largo, in conjunction with the recognition of National Domestic Violence Awareness Month across the state and country.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing us a few moments to recognize and promote the topic of domestic violence awareness. Each year we pause in October to raise awareness about domestic violence and to honor domestic violence victims and survivors. As we accept this proclamation, I would like to thank you first for issuing it, and I would like to hear from Frida Wadier, our domestic violence specialist with the police department. One final word before I hand it over to Frida. As with many of the efforts of the Largo Police Department and the ones that we put forth, the success of those efforts fall mainly on the dedication and the commitment of the people performing them. People at the police department are the most important resource in the area of advocacy for domestic violence, and we have one of the best for over the past 2 decades. Frida.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking this time tonight to recognize the devastating impact of domestic violence and the importance of this month of awareness. The police department has a long history of working to address domestic violence in our community, and many of you, our staff, and our community likely do not know our history. So I wanted to share a little bit of it with you tonight. Our efforts began in the early 1990s with an emphasis on good evidence gathering and the use of creative technology. That creative technology was the internet. What we take for granted today, and we really cannot live without, was very innovative at the time. It was in its infancy back then. We created the Largo Police Department Internet Project, where we hosted a website. On that website, we shared information like police reports, photos, videos that were accessed by the State Attorney's Office for good prosecution, by the domestic violence judge to set good bonds and conditions of bonds, and also for our local domestic violence center to reach out to victims. At the time, that was the spouse abuse shelter. It became the haven of RCS, and now it is the haven of Hope Villages of America. Our efforts were actually recognized by the Smithsonian Institute, and on a wall, we have a mention for innovative technology. We also applied for grants for equipment for our officers who were investigating calls so they could have good quality equipment to get evidence. We also applied for grants for 2 full-time domestic violence intervention specialists. One of those positions was lost during the recession in the late 2000s. And we actively engaged our various community partners to improve services for those impacted. One particular thing was that we worked with the Haven as well as the Department of Children and Families to provide funding for free counseling for Largo children who were impacted by domestic violence. Our efforts continue to this day, striving constantly to improve. And one way the city and the PD demonstrate the importance of this issue is by continuing to employ me as in the role of domestic violence intervention specialist. I thank you for that, and the chief. And my work is to specifically address domestic violence, dating violence, and stalking, and to address it at the early levels. Because if we address it at the early levels, we can prevent higher crimes that involve weapons, strangulation, and homicide, thereby saving Largo lives. As I conclude, I'd like you to think about a slogan that the National Network to End Domestic Violence has been using for a number of years. It's everyone knows someone. We all know at least one person who has been or currently is impacted by the devastating consequences of domestic or dating violence. The statistics tell us so. This is an issue that permeates our community, our county, and our nation. This year, during President Biden's proclamation of October 2023 as National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, he said, quote, "I call upon each of us to change the social norms that permit domestic violence, to provide meaningful support to survivors, and to express gratitude to those working diligently on prevention and response efforts. Together we can transform the country and build a nation where all people live free of violence," end quote. I can't say it any better than he said it. Thank you for hearing our history and my message this evening. Each of you is much appreciated. And I now want to introduce Melinda Perry, who is with Hope Villages of America, and she is one of those agencies that is diligently working on prevention and response in our community, and she'd like us to say a few words.
Good evening. I'm Melinda Perry. I'm the Chief Operating Officer with Hope Villages of America. We've been around in the community for over 50 years addressing hunger, housing, and abuse. And as Frida said, it all comes down to prevention. So one of the main things that we try and focus on is working with kids as young as preschool to talk about how to be a peacemaker. And unfortunately, some of our advocates who go into the preschools have heard multiple times from little 4- and 5-year-old kids saying, "But wait, it's not my job to get in the middle of my parents when they're fighting." So it's just tragic, the things that these kids are going through. We also provide services for teen dating violence to help educate teenagers about what a healthy relationship looks like, that it's not normal for your partner to have, control of your phone and tell you who you can hang out with and who you shouldn't talk to, and all those types of things. And then we work into the area of working with the individuals who've been victims of domestic violence, where we provide services in the court system. We are providing shelter services, safety planning, everything that we can to help these individuals get back to normalcy and help them get their power back. So I'd invite all of you to come out for a tour just to see our mission in action, and would love to do that. So again, thank you for proclaiming October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Next, we'll have National Friends of Libraries Week proclamation.
Whereas Friends of the Largo Public Library raise money that enables our library to move from good to great, providing the resources for additional programming, much-needed equipment, support for children's summer reading, and special events throughout the year. And whereas the work of the Friends highlights on an ongoing basis the fact that our library is the cornerstone of the community's intellectual freedom, providing opportunities for all to engage in the joy of lifelong learning and connect with the thoughts and ideas of others from ages past to the present. And whereas the Friends understand the critical importance of well-funded, sustainable libraries and advocate to ensure that our library gets the resources it needs to provide a wide variety of services to all ages, including access to print and electronic materials, along with expert assistance in research, readers advisory, and children's services. And whereas the Friends' gift of their time and commitment to the library sets an example for all in how volunteerism leads to positive civic engagement and the betterment of our community. Now therefore, I, Woody Brown, Mayor of the City of Largo, Florida, and on behalf of the City Commission, do hereby proclaim October 16th through the 22nd as Friends of Libraries Week in the City of Largo, and urge all residents of the area to join and support the Friends of the Largo Public Library for all they do to enrich our library and enhance our community.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. The Friends of Largo Library have supported Largo Public Library staff, initiatives, and programs for over 40 years. This group of dedicated volunteers have brought in over $2 million for the library through book sales, both in person and online, and other initiatives. The community beyond the library also benefits from their dedication to literacy through their Little Free Libraries they sponsor and their Bubbles and Books project at local laundromats. As part of this year's Friends Week celebration, we have a special presentation from the Friends of Largo Library President Ben Wiley. Ben will present a check to the library in the amount of $97,000 from the Leslie Chandler estate. This initial disbursement of funds will provide funding for more ebooks, a Florida Humanities Speaker Series, new volunteer management software, and future projects. Thank you, friends, for all you do to ensure the library has the resources and support to continue to provide for our community with equitable services that ignite curiosity and spark opportunities for connection and lifelong learning. Friends of Largo Library representatives and board members are here tonight are Pat Bell, Carolyn Reed, Dot Burst, Carolyn LaCorte-Niz, and Jackie Guthrie.
Mr. Mayor, maybe some of the members also want to come up also.
Like once a year, we have a lot of proclamations and I get my exercise during the meeting. But they're all very important, so we're going to move and talk about Florida City Government Week.
Whereas city government is the government closest to most residents and often felt to have the most direct daily impact upon the community, and whereas municipal government provides services and programs that enhance the quality of life for residents, making their city their home, and whereas city government officials and city team members share the responsibility to facilitate an understanding of public services and their benefits, and whereas Florida City Government Week offers an important opportunity for city representatives to spread the word to all residents that they can shape and influence this branch of government, and whereas the Florida League of Cities and its member cities, including the City of Largo, have joined together to engage with residents and provide education about municipal government through a variety of activities. Now, therefore, I, Woody Brown, Mayor of the City of Largo, Florida, and on behalf of the City Commission, do hereby proclaim the week of October 16th through the 22nd, 2023, as Florida City Government Week in the City of Largo in conjunction with the celebration of City Government Week in cities across the United States throughout the year, and to complement the City of Largo's current civic engagement efforts, such as resident advisory boards, youth leadership council, cross-sector partnerships, legislative advocacy, and public meetings.
Happy City Government Week. I'm excited to be here with you all today to celebrate City Government Week and share some ways to engage. Florida City Government Week is a week-long celebration held annually by the Florida League of Cities. As local government, we know that civic engagement is a key piece to continuously strengthening the City of Largo's mission to provide superior services that inspire community pride. If you're a resident, business, or visitor of Largo, here are a few ways that you can stay up to date with city news and events and contribute to the city's planning. First, stay up to date with all city happenings by signing up for the City of Largo's e-newsletter at largo.com/Largo today. In the newsletter, you'll learn about everything from new projects and service updates to fun and informative events, community grant opportunities, and more. Second, if you use social media, be sure to follow the City of Largo on Facebook and Instagram to see real-time updates on city happenings. The city manages various Facebook pages that focus on general city events and specific department activities as well. So be sure to go to largo.com/social and find all the pages and then click follow to stay up to date. For community members who are looking for other opportunities, City Government Week is a great time to visit largo.com/connect to learn more ways to get involved, such as advisory board positions and volunteer opportunities, as well as to invite city team members to your next civic group or neighborhood meeting or event to share more about city services. Thank you. Okay.
This is about libraries.
Oh.
This is us.
Oh, jeez. You want to steal my soul is what it is.
They'll give it back.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Let's do 1 more. And 3, 2. Thank you.
All right, and lastly, we have a proclamation declaring October 2023 as Community Planning Month.
Whereas change is constant and affects all cities, towns, suburbs, counties, boroughs, townships, rural areas, and other places, and whereas community planning and plans can help manage this change in a way that provides better choices for how people work and live, and whereas community planning provides an opportunity for all residents to be meaningfully involved in making choices that determine the future of their community, and whereas the full benefits of planning requires public officials and citizens who understand, support, and demand excellence in planning and plan implementation, and whereas the month of October is designated as National Community Planning Month throughout the United States of America and its territories, and whereas American Planning Association endorses National Community Planning Month as an opportunity to highlight how planning is essential to recovery and how planners can lead communities to equitable, resilient, and long-lasting recovery, And whereas the celebration of National Community Planning Month gives us the opportunity to publicly recognize the participation and dedication of the members of the City of Largo Planning Board, the Community Development Advisory Board, and other citizen planners who have contributed their time and expertise to the improvement of the City of Largo. And whereas we recognize the many valuable contributions made by professional planners in the City of Largo and extend our heartfelt thanks for the continued commitment to public service by these professionals. Now therefore, I, Woody Brown, Mayor of the City of Largo, Florida, and on behalf of the City Commission, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2023 as Community Planning Month in the City of Largo in conjunction with the celebration of National Community Planning Month.
Good evening, Mayor and City Commission. My name is Whitney Clark, Planner 1 for the City of Largo's Community Development Department. It is my honor and privilege to present to you this proclamation declaring October 2023 Community Planning Month. The City of Largo Planning Division is comprised of 9 planning professionals who focus on creating a more equitable, sustainable, and resilient community for every citizen to enjoy. Mayor, City Commission, and citizens of Largo, please help us recognize and celebrate National Planning Month in creating infrastructure of lasting value that benefits all.
This would be 2024.
There's 5 more.
All right, that brings us to citizens' comment. If you'd like to speak about something that's on the agenda outside of the consent docket, please wait until the item comes up. Do we have any cards this evening?
Yes, I have 3 cards for citizen comment. First is Maylee Kuipers.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Commissioner, Manager. My name is Maylee Kuipers. I live in Largo, and I have been a practicing veterinarian in Largo and Pinellas County for over 25 years. Usually I stand here chatting with you about parks and fun stuff like athletics, but tonight I'm here to be the voice for the animals. I was shocked and absolutely stunned when I found out that the SPCA of Largo, the SPCA of Tampa Bay, which is based in Largo, reached an agreement with a partnership for Sunshine Puppies, which is one of the retail stores that sells puppies in Largo, and Pinnacle Pets, which is one of the largest broker of puppies in the United States. In September 2021, this City Commission voted to prohibit any new stores from selling puppies in this town. However, you elected to grandfather 2 existing stores that were currently selling puppies at the time, and one of them was Sunshine Puppies. Pinellas County followed suit with a similar vote in June 2022. With this new program, this nonprofit Largo shelter is now accepting retired breeding stocks from out-of-state commercial facilities and taking imperfect puppies, whatever that means, from the pet stores and adopting them out to the public for a hefty fee, if I may say so. This type of arrangement is the antithesis of what animal sheltering and animal rescuing should be, especially when one considers that Florida is on the top 5 states in the United States for euthanizing adoptable dogs. Few people can resist a cute puppy in a storefront window. What family cannot see in that window is the parent of that puppy, the mother dog that spends the entire life in cramped space being essentially used as a breeding machine, all for profit. Pinellas counties and Florida shelters are already overpopulated with more and more homeless dogs coming in every single day. This is devastating decision from SPCA, a decision that will add to the numbers of those unwanted homeless dogs already sitting in shelters. This arrangement is shining the spotlight on Largo, on the city of Largo, but I am afraid not in a flattering way. I would hope that as our city government leaders, you will condemn such a preposterous move. And I beg you to support the unconditional opposition to the selling of dogs and cats in any of the Largo retail stores. I ask you to push the county, as well as Tallahassee, for a county and a statewide ban of selling dogs in any pet store. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Craig Murtha.
Hello, Craig Murtha, 145 Velma Drive, Largo. Last meeting, I talked about a woman that I met on a trolley, and her backyard backed up to a parking lot for an apartment complex. It wasn't Largo, it was just some other town, I don't even know where, but she complained that she had a lot of noise from that parking lot. There was noise from diesel engines, people working on cars, horns, radios, doors slamming. And she was especially concerned about the pollution because she said that she liked to keep her windows open a lot in the back of her house, and every time she would hear a diesel engine back there, she would run to her window and close it because it seemed like invariably the wind would be coming right towards her window and it would fill her house with diesel, diesel fumes. So she got to where she was just really keyed in on that. And it just made me think a lot about, why maybe parking lots aren't the best buffer for the, because if you had a structure there, the apartments there, most of those people would probably have their windows closed and there probably wouldn't be as much noise or certainly wouldn't be pollution. You'd have the visual effect of the apartments, but you can screen that out 100%, if you grow shrubs where you can't screen out noise or pollution. I mean, you can deaden the noise a little bit with a thick enough vegetative buffer, but it's really hard to do that. So, and I've noticed a lot, not just Largo, but all over, everywhere in development, it seems like more and more apartments are coming to the road and the parking is going to the back. And then the other concern is when you put the parking in the back, you have cars going down the side of the building too. So now the people that are pulled up, the people in the apartments that are right up against the road, they have cars, they're closer to the road. They're having cars right there and they're, on one side. Cars on the side of the building going back to the back parking lot, and then cars in the back. So really nobody in the building gets a break from that traffic, whereas if the parking lot was in the front, you could isolate the traffic to the car noises to the front and the pollution. And plus, even though there is some pollution, obviously, coming from parking lots, it's less than the road. So if you had a parking lot that was, say, 60 feet wide, because that's about what it takes to do parking on both sides of a double drive lane. If you had a 60-foot wide parking lot in the front, and you buffered that, of course, you'd want to buffer that because you wouldn't want to see that. Because I think that's part of the problem. There's so many bad examples of parking lots in the front where they only have a buffer like that, that they did years ago. But if you look at something good, I think it's the Hampton Inn. Isn't that the hotel right near right across from the Largo Central Park? That's a really good example of buffering where you have plenty of shrubs, trees, and you've got the parking lot. And the Hampton Inn is 5 stories tall, but it sits so far back that it's not oppressive, whereas a 5-story building closer to the road would be. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Matthew Faustini.
Good evening, all. Matt Faustini, 1015 Lake Palms Drive, Largo. I originally was going to speak about our board position on Fort Pinellas, but I'm glad to see there is a consent item taking care of that. So I did want to kind of change my focus. I did want to address something just from the comments I've heard so people know that you do not have as much power as they think, thanks to the Live Local Act that was passed by the state when it comes to changing anything to make zoning or density requirements less than what is already established. So I just want to urge the community, reach out to your state representatives, because the people in front of you, unfortunately, they've had the control taken away from them. I want to welcome our new city manager to his place. I wish him all the best as he moves forward in our city. Last time I spoke up here, I made the super popular case for keeping our millage rate the same and defending our current city budget spending levels. I'm proud this commission didn't make the popular, easy decision. It made the right decision, the one that was best for our community, our future, our city. So to keep my streak up, I'm going to argue today for something many of you probably feel you can't voice, and that is that you deserve not a pay increase, but a salary commensurate with the actual level of work that you are doing. There was a time when being on this commission or the mayor was truly a part-time job. That is no longer the case. We are a city of 85,000 people. To be honest, this commission, to its credit, has kept the status quo for over a decade when that status quo no longer really works. And to put this into example, I believe 5 out of the 7 members on this board are business owners, because a normal person cannot afford to be on this commission and make $18,000 a year. Just to give you an example, Commissioner Robinson serves on the following, in addition to his role on on our commission here. He serves on the Youth Leadership Council. He serves on the Largo Audit Committee. He serves on the Suncoast League of Cities Board of Directors. He also serves on the Pinellas Suncoast Transport Association. And if you'll give me a little more, Mayor Brown, I know I'm supposed to direct my comments towards the chair, but you yourself, you serve as our mayor. I wish I could go through everyone. I don't have the time. You serve as a member of the Audit Committee. You serve as a member of the Largo Emergency Management Planning Committee. You serve, I believe now, as the chairman of the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council as of yesterday, if I'm not mistaken.
Last week.
But, yeah. And you also serve as a member of the Florida League of Mayors on their board of directors. And a commissioner makes around $18,000 in this city. Our mayor makes less than, I believe, $25,000. So it's time that you're paid what you deserve. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all the cards for citizen comment.
Thank you. Next is approval of tonight's agenda.
Move approval.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next, consideration of the minutes of the regular meeting of October 3rd, 2023.
Move approval?
Second.
Any corrections? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. And could I hear the consent docket, please?
Item 8, appointment of Commissioner Eric Gerard to the Forward Pinellas Board for the term which will expire on September 30th, 2025. Item 9, designation of Commissioner Eric Gerard as a voting delegate with the Suncoast League of Cities. Item 10, approval of the First Amendment to the Emergency Medical Services ALS First Responder Agreement with Pinellas County Emergency Medical Services Authority. Item 11, authorization of payment for services from Spyglass Group LLC for cost savings identified in communications and wireless services contracts in an amount not to exceed $121,811.40. Item 12, authorization to lease holiday lighting displays from Riley's Outdoor LLC, doing business as Clark Sales Display, in the estimated amount of $55,000 in accordance with City of St. Petersburg bid number 8435. Item 13, amendment to the 401A defined contribution plan and the 457B deferred compensation plan to revise the loan policies. Item 14, authorization for fiscal year 2024 spending for bid number 22-B-760, sanitary sewer, reclaimed water, and stormwater repair to All American Concrete Incorporated, Gator Grading and Paving LLC, QRC Incorporated, Roland LLC, Keystone Excavators Incorporated, and In Situ Form Technologies LLC in the estimated amount of $2,032,100. Item 15, authorization for fiscal year 2024 spending for bid number 22-B-761, trenchless sanitary and storm sewer rehabilitation to BLD Services LLC, Inliner Solutions LLC, In Situ Form Technologies LLC, GCU LLC, and Vortex Services LLC in the estimated amount of $3,552,100. Item 16, authorization for fiscal year 2024 spending for bid number 22-B-773, pavement and roadway infrastructure rehabilitation to Ajax Paving Industries of Florida LLC, Asphalt Paving Systems Incorporated, Pavement Technology Incorporated, Gator Grading and Paving LLC, and Preferred Materials Incorporated in the estimated amount of $843,700. Item 17, authorization to purchase annual supply of metal front-loading dumpsters and metal roll-off containers for Box Gang Manufacturing in accordance with Sourcewell Contract number 040621-VXG, and the estimated amount of $332,400. Item 18, authorization to purchase pumps and repair services for flight products from Xylem Incorporated in the estimated amount of $300,000. Item 19, authorization to purchase various automation products and services from Rexel Electric Supply in the estimated amount of $80,000. Item 20, authorization to purchase odor and corrosion control chemicals from Premier Magnesia LLC in the estimated amount of $300,000.
Thank you. You've heard the consent docket. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the consent docket without commission discussion, including staff background provided in the commission packets.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next item is ordinance number 2023-52.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission and City Manager. This is the second reading of Ordinance 2023-52, which is amending the City of Largo Comprehensive Development Code by repealing a previous ordinance that was passed, that's 2023-27. There are no changes from the first reading, and staff are recommending approval of this change. It's related to the Largo Tri-City Special Area Plan amendments that were to address some of the setbacks and buffer requirements. And staff is available for questions.
Ordinance number 2023-52, an ordinance of the City of Largo, Florida, repealing ordinance number 2023-27, which amended the City of Largo Comprehensive Development Code by revising development standards and landscape buffer types by use and location for the Largo Tri-City Activity Center and Largo Tri-City Multimodal Corridor Overlay, providing for severability and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Do we have any cards on this?
We have no cards.
Just a couple comments for clarification. This is due to Senate Bill 250, which disallows cities within 100 miles of landfall of 2 hurricanes to do any land use changes that reduce their allowable use on property. So we looked at the Tri-City plan and put some buffers in place because some of the properties in the Tri-City are adjacent to lesser dense properties, allowing for pretty high transit-oriented, higher density homes and apartments and that type of thing. So we wanted to put a little bit more of a buffer to help protect those single-family home neighborhoods. The state said we can't. That was just a little bit of background for anybody that doesn't know, until maybe 2024, October 2024. So
Correct.
We had to repeal this just to comply with the state legislation, basically. That wasn't a question, so I'm not.
No, that was perfect. Thank you
All
for
right,
that
thank you.
background. And
To
just,
adopt ordinance number 2023-52 on second and final reading.
Second.
Dan, did you have something to add?
I know there was discussion last time about noticing some of the previous attendees of our community input meeting that we had, and Commissioner Smith had brought that up, and we did send out emails to all those who participated in that meeting in February of 2023, and we didn't receive any responses back.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do have a motion, a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much. Next is item number 22. Oop.
PB. Yes.
Pregnant pause there. Well, good evening. We are so pleased to present to you the 3-year agreement for the PBA supervisory. We engaged in negotiations, and for our police lieutenants, we were able to maintain a competitive wage structure, one that addresses the caliber and quality of our lieutenants and keeps us competitive regionally. Additionally, we established straight time pay when they're working on a holiday. We did not have that before. To remain competitive, we needed to incorporate that. We are here to answer any questions you might have on the agreement.
Thank you. Do we have any cards on this?
We have no cards.
Any questions from the commission?
I move to ratify the collective bargaining agreement with the Suncoast Police Benevolent Association Supervisory Unit for a 3-year term beginning October 1st, 2023 through September 30th, 2026.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. Next is item number 23.
Great. Again, we're very pleased for the rank and file and the sergeant's agreement to present to you this evening. This ratified document, 3-year agreement, again, keeps our wages competitive. It also incorporates 2 additional benchmarks, which to remain competitive with our regional players, we are finding a lot of worth in that. Additionally, we established a hostage negotiator incentive that really runs parallel to our SWAT, to our TAC team. When they're doing a good job, the TAC doesn't have to run in there. So very worthwhile, and we wanted to acknowledge hostage negotiators in that way. And we did create an incentive for Master Patrol Officer, which are officers that have 13 years with us here at the city. They have to attain certain benchmarks and expectations per the directive in the police department. Once they reach Master Patrol Officer, in this agreement, it establishes a 2% incentive. Before I answer any questions, I do want to acknowledge the bargaining teams. For PBA, we have Sergeant Andrew Lynch in the back. If you could, raise your hand there. For the rank and file agreement and the sergeant's agreement, as well as Sasha Lone and Sean Cheney. And for the PBA supervisory agreement, we had Sasha as well, and had Nick Cusmano, Lieutenant Cusmano, and Lieutenant Mike Blickensdorf on the executive team. We had Chief Mike Laux, which is right behind me there, and Kim Nichols, our new HR Assistant Director. So with that, we're here to answer any questions you might have on the PBA agreement for officers and sergeants.
Thank you. Do we have any cards on this?
We have no cards.
Any questions?
I move to ratify the collective bargaining agreement with the Suncoast Police Benevolent Association, Inc., PBA, for a 3-year term beginning October 1st, 2023 through September 30th, 2026.
Second.
Again, not a question, but thank you to everybody involved in working towards a great agreement for everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much.
Next is resolution number 2378. You were anxious to get up here, weren't you?
I was very. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Commission. The purpose of this is for City Commission approval to adopt a moratorium on the collection of temporary event permit application fees in the amount of $75 for Largo Small Business Month. This will be the 12th year that Largo City Commission has recognized Small Business Month during November to create awareness of impact of local businesses have on the quality of life in the city of Largo and in making us the community of choice. The moratorium will provide Largo small businesses an opportunity to host various events, such as sidewalk sales and on-site promotional events at no charge to them in anticipation of the holiday shopping season. Although the $75 fee will not be charged, businesses still must submit the temporary event permit application prior to the event. In 2022, 7 businesses applied for the temporary events in the month of November. As part of the activities for Small Business Month, the city will be offering a free business finance webinar hosted by Valley Bank. The city will also be conducting a social media campaign throughout the month of November and will shine a spotlight on Largo businesses and share their small business why. Businesses who submit a Small Business Month business information form will be featured on the city's Facebook page. Businesses are encouraged to submit an information form at www.largo.com/smallbiz to participate in the free social media campaign. And lastly, in recognition of these small businesses, we encourage our residents and visitors to shop local during the month of November. Thank you.
Resolution number 2378, a resolution of the City of Largo, Florida, adopting a one-month moratorium on temporary event permit fees for commercial and multifamily developments, providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Do we have any cards on this?
We have no cards.
Any questions from the commission? Commissioner Smith.
I'm very supportive of this. My question, I'm a kind of why different person. What are we doing different? I mean, you said 7 from last year. What are we doing? I know you said the seminar and stuff. What are we looking to do different to get these businesses? There's more than 7 in Largo.
There's definitely.
What are we doing as a city to try to reach out to them and let them know about this, or try to engage them more to do this?
So we've started promoting it a little bit earlier this year. We're trying to, with the social media push that we've put out there, they can fill the form out, and it's got some more information on some of this stuff. So we're trying to continually evolve what we're doing every year.
We put in the newsletter that we send out. I'm assuming we'll put that in there for them.
It is in there. We've mentioned it to several businesses in our downtown business meetings, and we're trying to continually expand how we reach them.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I'll move to approve resolution number 2378.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is ordinance number 2024-01.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This is a first reading of ordinance number 2024-01, amending the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 11, Environment. For a brief overview of what we're going to discuss tonight, first we just have some general updates covering many of the ordinances. Then we're going to dive deeper into Section 11-47, which covers our junk, trash, and debris. Section 11-48, which covers overgrowth. Section 11-73, which covers definitions relating to residential parking. And finally, Section 11-78, which covers residential parking. So the reason behind these updates, first is just to modernize the language. Many of these codes have not been updated since the 1970s or 80s, so it was just time to freshen up that language and make it more modern. It clears some of the language, making the ordinances more understandable. And then finally, it removes a lot of redundancies and duplications across some of the ordinances. First section we'll cover is 11-47, which we refer to as our junk, trash, and debris ordinance. Some changes we made here. We expanded the responsible party. We removed duplicate language that crossed over into 11-48. We consolidated the restriction of temporary structures under one code. Currently, it covers a few different codes, and we'll consolidate that under one section. And then finally, we do have an exemption for sales in side and rear yards as long as they are used for patio seating and not for temporary carports. Next, we have 11-48, which is our overgrowth section. Once again, this removed duplicate language. We really wanted to separate 11-47 and 11-48. They sort of mixed, so we want to keep 11-47 as our junk, trash, and debris ordinance, and 11-48 as our overgrowth ordinance. And then finally, we will have, city staff will conduct a more in-depth discussion of landscaping, specifically covering Florida-friendly and native plants at the December 12th, 2023 work session. A brief history covering residential parking. Back between 2016 and 2017, staff conducted research and had discussions covering on-street parking. In November 2019, moved to a work session covering front yard parking requirements. The directive from this work session was to maintain the status quo of enforcement. Moving to last year in September, the work session covered recreational and commercial vehicles. The staff was directed to conduct additional research on this topic, and finally, back in March, that additional research basically was to be brought forward for these proposed changes. So 11-73 is definitions relating to residential parking. We updated and created some new definitions. We created a commercial equipment definition. We also updated the commercial vehicle definition and created an exempt commercial vehicle definition and updated the recreational vehicle definition. Next, we have a few examples of these types of vehicles. First is the commercial equipment. Things like forklifts, excavators, backhoes is what we define as commercial equipment. Commercial vehicles, currently all of these vehicles are considered commercial vehicles under our current definition. The small vans and the pickup trucks fall under the exempt commercial vehicles, which would be allowable with our proposed changes. Vehicles like the box truck at the bottom would not be allowable. Next, we have recreational vehicles. Currently, the smaller Class B type recreational vehicles and boats are allowable. The larger Class A motorhomes exceed the heavy vehicle limits for current ordinance. Our current practice for 11-78, we have two sections. The first section, Section A, prohibits the parking of those recreational and commercial vehicles within the right-of-way. Section B enforces those same restrictions within the setback of a property. Moving over to the diagram example, we use the complete right-of-way distance provided by the engineering department. This particular example for this street, it's 50 feet, so that red line stretches all the way across from one property to the other for the entire 50 feet right-of-way. That green line is the half distance that the code officers measure from the middle of the road. In this particular instance, because that total right-of-way distance is 50 feet, the center from the roadway would be 25 feet. Then additionally, that blue line is the 20-foot setback, which that 20-foot setback is what we use across the city. Currently, we do not allow commercial or recreational vehicles to be parked in any of these zones. So the issues this creates, as you can see, obviously first is officer safety, them having to go out in the middle of the street to measure that middle distance for the right-of-way. Inefficient enforcement, they're having to go research what that right-of-way distance is for each street, go out, measure it, and then finally it's not uniform because houses have different lot sizes, they're set back different distances from the road, so some properties have more frontal setback and some have less. So the proposed changes for 11-78, we would allow one recreational vehicle in the front yard and one of the exempt commercial vehicles in the front yard. These vehicles must be operable and have valid registration and then also cannot block sidewalks. Just a few examples. All three of these photos show boats parked in driveways of local properties. The two on the top are actually in violation of the setback. The total right-of-way setback combined distance for the top two photos is 50 feet. I think one is about 30 feet, the other is about 40 feet, so both of those are in violation. Whereas the boat at the bottom, it's the property structure is much further from the road, and they have much more space to park there.
Let me ask you a question on that.
Yes.
The top left, if that boat were on the side of the house, would that be permitted?
Yes, currently it would be permitted.
Okay.
Proposed timeline, tonight we have our first reading and a proposed second reading on November 7th, 2023. And that concludes our presentation, and we are available for any questions you may have.
Ordinance number 2024-01, an ordinance of the City of Largo, Florida, amending Chapter 11 Environment of the City of Largo Code of Ordinances by amending Section 11-19 to regulate public nuisances generally, including any conditions that are prejudicial to the health, safety, or well-being of the public, and to allow the city to abate nuisances that are caused or created, amending Section 11-20 to regulate the discharge of noxious fumes and debris on any property within the city, amending Section 11-21 to require that pits be maintained and to prohibit water from becoming a public nuisance, amending Section 11-46 to redefine certain terms consistent with the changes made by this ordinance, amending Section 11-47 to replace property maintenance requirements related to lawn care with requirements related to general outdoor clutter by prohibiting debris and other enumerated objects from being kept outdoors, amending Section 11-48 to add property maintenance requirements related to lawn care, amending Section 11-49 to clarify existing provisions related to nuisance abatement, amending Section 11-73 to add various defined terms, including defined terms related to vehicles and commercial equipment consistent with the changes being made by this ordinance, repealing Section 11-74, amending Section 11-75 to incorporate the defined term inoperative vehicles, amending Section 11-76 to revise the manner in which the city provides notices regarding inoperative vehicles, repealing Section 11-77, amending Section 11-78 to incorporate various new defined terms and to revise when certain vehicles may and may not be parked or stored in certain residential areas, repealing Section 11-80, amending Section 11-82 to remove the building official's authority to enforce the article and to allow the community standards manager to enforce the article, amending Section 11-83 to clarify the form of the notice that the city provides for local ordinance violations, amending Section 11-111 to revise the definition of motor vehicle to include all electric vehicles, amending Section 11-114 to authorize the city manager to delegate his or her authority regarding waivers from noise requirements, amending Section 11-118 to clarify that the section applies specifically to watercrafts, amending Section 11-119 to expand the noise prohibition from applying only to mechanical or electrical devices to applying to all forms of devices, amending Section 11-121 to provide that violations of the article are punishable in accordance with Chapter 9 of the Code, providing for codification, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Do we have any cards for us?
I have several cards. First is John Lauser.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. John Lauser, back again to affirm my support for the proposed changes to City Ordinance 11-78. You're likely to hear many perspectives, such as the financial burden of storing a recreational vehicle and the lack of spaces for rent in the county, or the alternative being to park a boat on the grass in the front yard to be in compliance. I would like to focus on the effect that ambiguous rules like this have on our community and our freedoms. Chapter 11-78 as currently written is ambiguous and nearly impossible to enforce. As stated in previous comments, there are so many commercial and recreational vehicles parked in violation of this code that you'd have to triple your code enforcement staff and make their sole job parking violations. As it sits now, the rule is only enforced when a complaint is made, and in my opinion, that gives neighbors an avenue to tear away at the fabric of our community through petty complaints. As stated in your proclamation, and I quote, "Whereas, let us come together to build communities where every resident has the opportunity to contribute at their best. Let us come together to create more prosperous communities and to reaffirm that the City of Largo stands as a beacon of freedom and opportunity," end quote. First of all, I can tell you that the application of the parking rule stemming from one neighbor's complaint has sent a ripple through our otherwise tight-knit community. And second of all, how can we be a beacon of freedom when you want to codify that the front 50 feet of my property, my entire front yard, is basically Largo City property? I can understand the use of a setback for building regulations, but applying that same setback for parking of specific vehicles is basically saying that I can't use my front yard. If my entire front yard is Largo City property, then I would like to know when the city will be securing a landscaping contract to mow your grass and take care of your trees. Because once I stop mowing it, I don't want you to be in violation of letting your grass get taller than 12 inches. I do have a couple of questions, if I may. So are you, Mayor Brown, inclined to approve the 11-78 changes as written? And if you are committed to the words in your proclamation, are you willing to commit to common sense review of the current city code to reword or remove ambiguation to reduce the ability of petty neighbors to use city code enforcement officers to further divide our communities? I was raised to be a good neighbor and a good citizen. I've served my country and cherished my community as I do my rights as an American citizen. Please don't make me have to prioritize one over the other. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Mark Giancini. Junkins? Oh, I'm sorry.
Good evening, Commissioners and Mayor. I have the same concern as my neighbor does. You know, Mayor Brown, council members, before you expressed my ordinance last time in 1178, one bad egg in our community. After 12 years, I have my boat parked and covered, paid for my taxes in my front yard. No other neighbors. We have a neighbor that complains, so now 25 of us have vehicles that we are out of ordinance. Now, the whole Pinellas County, if we did that to Largo, you know how many people would have to try to find space to park their boat or something like that? It's a financial burden for them. We pay a lot of taxes to live here. I take care of my property. I mow my grass. 55 feet is way too much. 55 feet puts you right up to my garage door. And I heard someone say, well, maybe you can park on the side. I don't have that on the side. I have an air conditioner on one side. I have my pool pumps on the other side for my pool. There's no way I could park my boat on the side. I'm not impeding the sidewalk. I'm not interrupting any views from the streets. I think we should have our property back and be able to put my boat there so I can go fish with my grandkids or children or my neighbors. Right now, as of electric bills, everything's up, so financial burden would be a big time thing. You know, taxes are up, electricity's up, food's up, gas is up, my pay's not up. So please look at this ordinance again and please vote yes on this to change this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Amanda Lauser.
Amanda Lazar, Smith & Associates real estate agent here in Largo. I'm from Keene Lake Manor, just in the same neighborhood as my friends here. And it really didn't concern me as much because we do have the property, we have the space to put our boat back within your regulations of 50 feet. As a real estate agent, I think it's insane that 50 feet from the middle of the road to the property. I'm trying to sell the dream of Florida, and that doesn't feel like a dream to me. To make me have to sell my boat or to find extra space, put my friends out, and they're going to be, because their property just doesn't allow it. And for one person, and I appreciate the duplication of words that you've taken out of your code writing. However, it is incredibly hard to read. And I've read the status of forces agreement. It's rough. So to have 50 feet from the middle of the road to your property, I'm an avid walker, and I can see that that is a majority of the people in my neighborhood. That is to their front door, their threshold. I understand needing the advantage to have the infrastructure, which you're responsible for, that we pay the insurance, the taxes for. I get it. You need access to that. But 50 feet is ridiculous. I haven't been so upset. I apologize. I know you guys are just getting the brunt of it, but I appreciate and I hope that you listen to the words of gross overstretch into our private properties that we are paying the taxes for. So please, vote yes, get it changed. It's the right thing to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Michael Peltier, and he is representing Jody Madden, Beverly Tucker, Dawn Metters, Harold Willis, and Larry Wallace.
Good evening, Commissioners, City Manager, Mayor. I've got the opposite viewpoint of the previous two people, and it's America, and we all have a right to speak, of course, but I think that the coordinances were changed 30-some-odd years ago from not having any kind of controls over what was in the front yard, what kind of junk was there, how to clean it up, no way to defend anything, to the current ordinance, which basically cleans the whole front. Set back up to where people can't clutter that up. They can't put a boat in there and do other things to otherwise devalue the neighborhood. We have in our charter the language says that whereas the City of Largo finds that in order to preserve and enhance City of Largo as a desirable community in which to live, visit, and do business, a pleasing and visually attractive environment that is safe for vehicular and pedestrian traffic is of foremost importance. That's your charter language, and what you're proposing to do is remove the aesthetics. You're proposing, and I'll read the ordinance in a moment, you're proposing to eliminate a way to correct that problem. You're proposing to inconvenience people who want to have a boat and such, but unfortunately, we have postage stamp lots, and they just simply won't support a boat. I've had a boat, and I've had to have it stored elsewhere. I live in a Largo house on a street that's 20 feet wide. So it's sad that I can't have a boat, and people can't either, but I think that's just in the way of living a society of civil laws and obedience. As I review the cover sheet that came on the agenda, written by Mr. Bergeron, I read the closing statement of, overall, these changes will allow code officers to work safer and more efficiently. These changes would be in line with neighboring municipalities and improve the health, safety, and welfare of the community. The clause about safety is based upon crossing a road or finding the middle of the road. We're being led to believe that the individuals, according to the actual words of Mr. Bergeron, are playing Frogger as they try to determine where the middle of the road is. But quite frankly, the middle of the road is a very important thing to know. All property values, since the Roman days, were based upon the center of some path to decide what the property was. All cities, when the first thing they build is the roads. And so the center of the road is the key mark of what has to be done. If the sign people have to go out, rather than the code people, and decide how far back a sign is from the road on the property, they're going to have to measure where the center of the road is somehow. But I fully don't expect them to walk out with a tape measure and go like so to figure it out from the middle of the road. No. How simple, I've just said before, but for the sake of public, they have a wheel, they've been told, and they take the wheel and they put the wheel on the side of the road where they're standing, look left, look right, walk across the road completely while measuring. When you get to the other side, you know how wide the road is, and there's the middle of the road. You do your math, you find out where the right-of-way is, which is only usually 10 or 15 feet more than that, because realizing that a 50-foot right-of-way means 25 feet from the center of the road, not 50 feet from the center of the road all the way over. So that varies from neighborhood to neighborhood. It's been told to me that the inspectors have the variance book. They know that what street they're on, what the setbacks are supposed to be. So, you know, the right-of-way and such. So I think that the idea of safety is a big problem. Okay. So last week I dropped off a package to the commissioners showing various pictures of what could happen. Because as the code reads, we'll be able to have one commercial vehicle and one recreational vehicle in the front setback, but also, what was not mentioned a moment ago, another recreational vehicle and another commercial vehicle can be stored either on the side of the property or on the back of the property if you have the ability to do so. What's not mentioned is fencing and such of that nature, but we'll get to that in a minute. So that reads in the code as such. One recreational vehicle, when parked or stored within the front portion of a residence, between the front of the structure and the right-of-way, and one additional recreational vehicle may be stored in the side or rear yard of the residential property. These are exemptions to the rule that otherwise they're thrown away. Next item, one exempt commercial vehicle, when parked or stored within the front portion of the residence, between the front of the structure and the right-of-way, one additional exempt commercial vehicle may be stored in the side of the rear yard of the residential property. What this does open up is individuals that have large vehicles now, large boats, campers, RVs, motors, home, whatever they might be, you can see them throughout the city overlapping the so-called sidewalk. But if you have a neighborhood that doesn't have a sidewalk, how do you know if that thing is parked on the right-of-way or not? You have nothing to mark it. I know in my particular neighborhood what the setbacks are, and there's vehicles that are parked on the right-of-way now. Would I be able to put in a complaint? The code doesn't say that the measurement is going to be possible. They're trying to avoid having to measure anything, so they'll say, no, don't have to do anything. There's not a sidewalk that indicates where the right-of-way is. Well, quite frankly, sidewalk edges don't necessarily say exactly where the right-of-way is. It's reasonably close, and most of the time it's true. The edge of the sidewalk will mark the extent of the right-of-way, but that's not always the case, and we don't always have that. In fact, on 20-foot wide streets, your Largo's ordinances would say that you can't have parking anywhere on that street, period. And a street of 30 feet has parking on only one side, and it's the city's engineering department's duty to put up signs to say which is which. We don't have that. I live on a 20-foot street, and I can imagine that the displaced parking that's going to happen when these boats start to come in from everywhere, you know, they take them out of the storage now, and they bring them home and put them sideways in the front of the property, because that's legal now, under this proposal anyway. Then there's going to be such a chaos of parking in the streets that the ambulances probably aren't going to be able to get down to my house. Now, I know that sounds extreme, but the extreme is what we have to worry about. Don't we worry about the 100-year storm? Don't we think about that kind of thing when we look at all these sort of stuff? So I presented a whole bunch of, So I presented a whole bunch of things to the city, and they have charts there like such to show what one city does. And the fact of the matter is, the trend is not to put things in the front yard. Real briefly, the trend is to put things in the side yards and the backyards between the cities of Clearwater, Tarpon Springs, Pinellas County, Dunedin, Pinellas Park, St. Pete, Oldsmar, and Bel Air that I studied. There are so many ways the cities are not going that way that we should follow them if we want to be in alignment with the communities. Look around. I'd be happy to have a breakout meeting with anybody and share my notes, but I've spent hours putting this together of what the trends really are. I thank you very much. I'm sorry I got cut short.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Dwight Bolanowski.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, staff, public. I came here 2 weeks ago and spoke regarding the 1178 50-foot requirement setback from the center of the street. As previously stated, the RVs and boats, motorhomes, bring in registration revenues yearly. Insurance on these vehicles is set to rise approximately 19% in 2024. Storage locations fees range from $120 to over $600 per month. Snowbirds have secured rental spaces and retained them throughout the summer so as to have a place to put their vehicle when they return south for the winter. RV vehicles contribute greatly to the economy through the purchase of fuel, food, beverages, as well as boat launch fees and camping rental sites such as Fort DeSoto Park. Removal of the 50-foot rule would bring all residents in line with the current county rules. Let's eliminate the unfairness for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Bruce, is it Hottail?
Hi, I moved to Largo when I retired from the military. And during that time in the military, I've traveled the world, been to 3 wars, and have not been with my family during those times, a lot of it. And now that I've retired and I have my motorhome, which is not huge, but it's outside the 50 feet, I think that's unfair. I understand a setback on property, okay, but that's a huge amount of setback. The only way I can get my camper in there is to park it sideways and probably pretty close to the house. But I think this new proposal will help us to keep our property where we can secure it and use it whenever we feel we need to use it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Chuck Davis.
Yes, I'm also
in favor of the change also to eliminate that 50-foot rule. If you go by what the gentleman said about the 100-year storm, nobody would be able to build on the beaches, would they? So that didn't even make sense to me. But anyway, I believe you should be able to use your property for the way you want, and 50 feet is a huge setback. So thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Matthew Faustini.
Evening, everybody. Matt Faustini, 1015 Lake Palm Drive, Largo. I originally wasn't planning on speaking on this, and then I thought back to a little bit of my own family history. And I think it's always important to come up and share real stories and real impacts of what's happened. So, as many of you know, my family moved to Largo before I was one in 1990. Moved into a duplex as renters, eventually bought the property in 97. I've always viewed Largo as a working class city. We're hardworking people, we're aspirational, and we're fiercely independent. It feels weird coming up here and speaking about the long-term policy of our city over the last 25 years as a 34-year-old gentleman, but here we are. This isn't a new thing. Our commission has been dealing with this for a long, long, long time. I remember in the early 90s, my mom started as a mobile groomer, and she had a mobile grooming van, and we had a lot of issues with code enforcement because it couldn't be parked in the early 90s in the front of the property, and we had to figure out ways to take care of that. Eventually, she moved out of mobile grooming into a permanent grooming position. So I understand where a lot of people are coming from, and I wanted to share that experience because we've heard a lot tonight about boats, but there are a lot of other things in this ordinance that impact working class people who have trucks and vehicles that they drive to work every day that they need to take tools and equipments to job sites. So I just want us to keep our focus on our working class nature of our city. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all cards.
Thank you. Any questions from the commission? Commissioner Robbins.
Thank you. So, yeah, I just wanted to echo some of the comments. Well, first of all, thank you for, Chase and your team for putting this together. It's I know a lot of work. I know you've had a lot of conversations with the community and a lot of conversations with the commission, and to kind of get us to where we are today. And I appreciate all that hard work that you've done. So, just going back to some of the comments I made when we had this at a work session months ago, and I think Mr. Faustini just kind of echoed those comments where Largo is very much a working class neighborhood, and I think a lot of folks, we see, again, a lot of the conversation was about boats and RVs, and those are something that a lot of people do see. This is a coastal community, so we're very familiar with a lot of those, a lot of that equipment. But when you look at the biggest thing that I see, the biggest thing that people are concerned, or have homeowners are having issues with, are the vehicles that they're driving home, right? It might be I'm not going to, a small work van or a commercial truck that they're having to take home because that's their daily driver. They're driving that to and from, back and forth to work every single day. It's given to them by their whatever company they work for. And I want those people to be able to be secure in knowing that they can go home and park that vehicle at their house. I think we've, as long as they're not blocking the sidewalk, which is a big issue for me. One of the pictures that was shown in the last photo there was a house that's 2 doors down from me. That my neighbor parks his boat in his front yard, and that's where he's able to put it, right? So it's not blocking the sidewalk. As long as it doesn't block the sidewalk, as long as it's not in the street, and it's not, it's operable, they're using it regularly, I tend to be okay with that. So I will support this today. Again, I supported it when, this is the direction that the commission gave, and you guys brought that back, so I will support this evening. Appreciate all the residents coming out and having a discussion. It's nice to see people engaging in our community and being a part of what we're trying to do here, so thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith.
Commissioner Robinson said it quite well, actually. And I agree, we're a working-class city. It's definitely, being born and raised here, I've seen how this area has changed, and many people, work and want to play in their backyard. We're like, literally, I'm 10 minutes from the beach. So my concern kind of was like Commissioner Robinson, is the setback, but also street parking. It's happened in my neighborhood where someone was trying to get around the code and attached their boat to the back of their truck and left it out on the road. So that's something I don't want to be happening. I also, hindrance of vehicles, I think that code will address those properly. I'm 100% and believe in our code officers on that. Question, and this is coming up on many years. Like many people have said, this has been on the books for 30-plus years. So it's not something new that many people have been dealing with. It's just, it's feeling people. And I personally, I looked at everything, and I appreciate everybody who's come and spoken for and against. But I kind of curious, what will happen to the current cases that we have do we have currently any cases that are pending relating to this on the code board?
Not headed to code board or magistrate at this time.
Okay. Nothing till the December 7th, correct? I'm nothing, we're not going to.
Yes.
Okay. I just don't want us to go through this dog and pony show. I'll support this also tonight. I have no problem supporting this. And I, again, thank all the residents for coming and speaking. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Holmes.
You know, this reminds me of the first meeting I had with the new city manager. We were talking about a very similar subject, and he asked me, what would you do? And I said, no, I don't get paid to do that. You got the baby, I'm just going to hand you the sword. You can cut it in half. If you're not in the Bible, you don't know what that is. Put that one slide back up where you were showing the dimensions of the roads, the road. I have a question for you about that. You find it? There you go. If you look at that thing, there's one thing I wanted to point out in that. We are going by measurements of absolute. You're going 50 feet, 20 feet, 25 feet, okay? Not all the roads in Largo are that wide. There's a spread of them, and I just wonder, how would it work out? And also, there's many roads around here where the sidewalks are right next to the road. And then you have other streets where there are no sidewalks. So I was wondering, if you change this thing around, instead of going on absolutes of feet, if you went on a percentage, because the roads, they're not all the same width. So if you have someone whose house is facing one way, and they have, say a small front yard or, a short driveway, this is draconian to them. I mean, you could have stuff going right up to their front door, but if you changed it to a percentage, which, I mean, I don't know how you could work the grammar out on that, but instead of saying, 12 feet, you can come up with a formula where it's not an absolute, because you'd have to change it for, the neighborhood itself. It's not one size fits all. That's my only issue. I mean, listening to both sides of it, they've got some very valid points. But I'm just saying, to make things fair, you're not going to make it absolutely fair. It's going to be like, horseshoes and hand grenades, close enough. What if you change that around from feet to a different mathematical ratio?
I think the one issue we ran into just using measurements of any type is you're still going to have, those smaller lots, the properties where the home's set much closer to the road or conversely much further away. They're still going to have that discrepancy, and you're going to have that big change where if you just pick a set number, say you can have 1, you can have 2, you can have X amount, it's much easier to determine if they're in violation. It's much easier for the code officers to, drive by and see, yes, they're in violation, or no, they're in compliance. Just having a set number, I think, is much easier for everyone involved.
No, I understand. As for a code officer, it's much easier. But if you're the homeowner, and all of a sudden you got the code officer knocking on your door, and he just said, well, wait a second, we've got this thing here. It's got to be, the total's got to be 45 feet setback from the middle of the road. And you look at the house and you say, well, this house doesn't even get 45 feet. You're right next to the front door. that is an issue, because you got some houses, you got some neighborhoods here, the houses are all, they're close to the road, very close to the road. So that's why I say, you're not gonna have one size fits all.
Well, I think, Commissioner Holmes, that's why we were seeking to have some more parity citywide, so that whether you have a small lot or a larger lot, or whether your garage sticks out a ways in front of the front main facade of your house, we're looking for some parity across neighborhoods, and a more effective and efficient way for our code officers to be able to respond.
Absolutely, I mean, you know, as a person who sits on the code board, I hear the arguments pro and con, so, but I'm just saying, you gotta come up with some, we should come up with a better formula, where I understand, both sides are correct on this thing. I mean, once upon a time, I had a neighbor, the guy actually had a cigarette boat parked in his front lawn. He did. I mean, it was, and he had his company truck, which was a box truck, sitting in the driveway. That kind of trashed the place. So, I mean, that's one extreme. Fortunately, they moved out. He had a nice boat, though. But it's like I said, you gotta, you're doing a balancing act there, and you're trying to make it as fair as you possibly can for all the parties involved. That's all. I just say, you need to come up with a good formula, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to jump on that a little bit. I think that a percentage or formula makes things more convoluted than it is right now. And that's one of the challenges that code enforcement has, is it's kind of convoluted, right? So I mean, I agree with Commissioner Robinson's statements, certainly around commercial vehicles. I think we can get to the point where we can allow boats or RVs. I know in the past we talked about size limits, to the cigarette example. You can't put a 45-foot boat in many front yards, but you could probably fit some in somewhere. So I think that it might be valuable to consider some type of size limit. I know that some of our neighboring cities have size limits. Another thing that we did see during the work session and wasn't included here was exactly what some of the cities around us are doing. I know what the county does. And so, listen, I own a boat. I lived in a little tiny house in a little tiny lot, and thankfully I had, it was a small boat and it fit next to the house. I understand that's not always the case. Sometimes your driveway doesn't go along the side of the house or whatever it is. So, as was stated earlier, most of the people that live in Largo live about 2 miles from either the Tampa Bay or the Gulf. So we're a boating community. A lot of people here boat and RV. I get it, right? So there's a lot of retirees. A lot of retirees have an RV. I'm not sure that I'm on board with having a 50-foot RV out in the front yard of a house. I don't know that anybody would have room or park that there, but I think that we should have a conversation about potential size limits. The other thing that is concerning is the surface that they're parked on. And I don't mean that you have to pour a slab underneath your boat, but I think that it should be some type of maintained surface, whether it's shell or rock or brick or whatever, something other than dirt. Because dirt, if it's windy for 3 weeks and you can't move your boat, you're going to have grass growing up through your trailer, right? And then it's going to be exactly what we're trying to avoid, which is an ugly front yard. I don't think there's not many people in Largo that think a well-maintained boat with a cover on it that looks nice in somebody's front yard that's not going from front door to the sidewalk, everybody kind of appreciates that because of where we are in the world, right? So I think that we can get there where we can allow it. My goal is what was brought forward by code enforcement is we need to make this something, if we're going to have a rule here, it needs to be something we can enforce, something that's reasonable to enforce. And it's got to the point where it really isn't, because there's so many different setbacks and so many different situations on single-family homes, and it's difficult for our people to enforce what's been there for 30 years, and that's why we're talking about it here. So I know that wasn't a question, but those are some of my comments along this. I'd like to see I know, again, I remember that there were some size limits in other cities, and I know that we talked a little bit about and threw some numbers out there. I don't remember exactly what they were, but I think on RV and on a boat, we should have some type of size limit. And I certainly don't want to make it convoluted, but that's where I am. Commissioner Robinson.
Thank you. Just one more, two more comments, I guess. So, one, I would agree with the mayor. I think, again, I will support this tonight. I think it's worth having that conversation. I think, of the size of vehicles that are out in somebody's front yard. That's probably a valid, worthy conversation for us to have. I think my other, I guess, question or comment is just for some clarity on the picture we're looking at on our screens right now. That is what's currently allowed today, correct? Or that's the current regulations that are in place today?
Yes, this is how the parking violation would be enforced today.
Thank you. So what we're looking at is getting rid of all of this convoluted mess that you have a hard time understanding, that the residents have a hard time understanding, that puts people in danger for being out in the street to try to measure all that stuff. Getting rid of that and basically saying you can have one RV or one commercial vehicle and one recreational vehicle in your yard, in your front yard, as well as one of each in the backyard or side yard. Correct?
Yes.
And overall. All right. Thank you.
And they have to be registered and working
Yes,
condition.
right.
Yes, operable.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Johnson.
First, as a business owner, we have a lot of trucks that are parked throughout Largo, so I'm grateful that we're making the change to allow for commercial vehicles, especially those smaller ones, to be parked in residential neighborhoods, and I think that's fantastic and, long time coming. I am concerned about oversized, people abusing this allowance, parking a shrimp trawler in their front yard or something, with no, without no common sense, limits. And so I do really think we need to talk about like the size that we're really, what would go beyond the pale? Like where would it would no longer be like a good neighbor, a standard. And I think right now we don't really have that tightened up yet. And so I don't think I can vote for this right now, but I do think we can get it right, with a little bit better language on some size limits on some of these vehicles that we want to allow and to be parked in front yards. So that's where I'm at. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Holmes.
This is my last comment also. This is the first reading. This is not people out in the audience, whether you were pro, con, this is only the first reading. You need to contact community development and make sure they know what your thoughts are, and then they will get it to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Holk.
Yes, I just want to put some 2 cents in here. Most of you have covered pretty much everything, and I agree with most of what's been said as far as, but it is concerning, as Commissioner Johnson said, about, I support this, but it's always the few people that take advantage of things. So I do agree that we do need maybe some better wording in there, a little more specification on size. And I have a feeling, in my mind, I've been thinking this since we started discussing it, it's like, it's been there for a long time, but obviously, how I always feel is there's always people that take advantage of situations which create, the havoc that we're experiencing right now. And so, I get it, but I just know that we do need to just be a little more specific, I think, in this. I do support it, and I'm like going back and forth, okay, I support it, but there's changes I want, so it's like, which way do you vote now when we vote on this? So I'm probably a little more confused than I was before I sat down here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith.
Could we pass it tonight, and do you think you have ample time to come to examples back on second reading? Since it seems to be what the commission's talking about, do you feel like you can come back with some ideas other cities have on this, or setbacks if we passed it tonight?
Mr. Zimmet, go ahead.
I think timing-wise,
I think we
comfortable?
could
Obviously,
put
we'll
something together.
we'll defer to the city attorney's office with regards to.
Where are we in terms of the public notice thing?
I wanted it to run next Wednesday. I can have time to pull it.
My only concern would be getting the notice published if we have to change the title of the ordinance. If the changes, from what I've heard, the changes aren't changing the substantive purpose of the ordinance. And I just looked at the title again. I don't think we would have to change the title of the ordinance, but I would have to see what changes community standards made before I can make a final determination. So it may delay the second reading by one meeting if we would have to, if we would miss the public notice for the meeting.
So there was a question earlier about current code cases. I would assume that if there's some warnings out there, they have 30 days to come into compliance. Or how's that working right now with existing violations, if you will? Or are there warnings out there right now?
Yeah, code officers always start usually with some type of verbal warning, so there'd be ample time to, put a hold on those cases.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Robinson.
Yeah, last question, I think. So, how hard would it be if we pass this as is and we get through the second reading and it passes, and then we have a discussion on what, I think the only thing we're really having a concern with is maybe the length of the vehicles. Maybe there's some other stuff, but would it be hard to bring this back if it's passed as is and just bring back an amendment or, just a, discussion at a work session maybe down the road and say, hey, here's some options that we're seeing in neighboring communities. The commission can make a decision and then we could edit this again. How much more work is that for you guys?
I mean, I think that's a possibility because section 11-78 is just section 14 of the proposed amendment, so it's possible, I guess we could postpone just that section and approve the rest of the.
I mean, I'm in favor of going, passing everything as is today, as you have it now. And then coming back at a later time with just that 1178 and saying, changing that specifically. That way you don't, there's not the entirety of the work that you guys have done is postponed until one little piece is amended.
So can we do, you're asking, can we do an amendment to?
Yeah, so my question, I don't even know if it's a suggestion. I don't want to make you, place any more burden on the ComDev team than they already have. But I think we're in favor of 99% of what's presented today, right? And all the majority of our discussion is on this one section of the chapter 11, right, of the ordinances. So my suggestion is vote on what we have presented to us, and then knowing that we want maybe a fix on 1178 at a later time, maybe have that at a work session to discuss what we believe would be the best path forward, and then bring that just one section back to us with an amendment.
Understood.
Is that
Yes, that's doable from
something like
staff's
feasible?
perspective.
My preference would be to try to hit the target with the passing of this. So I would hate to say, okay, you can park boats or RVs of any size with, they can park on the dirt, whatever, and then come back and reel that back in. I don't think that, well, it doesn't seem as if our folks are out there enforcing what's been there for, recently. I mean, we're educating people or whatever, but we don't have a whole lot of cases on the books that were going to be an issue. So I would rather take our time and get this right rather than pass it with less restrictions and then have to tell somebody that has a shrimp trawler in the front yard that they can't park it there anymore. Right. Or whatever,
Right, yeah. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So going back to my question, I know it's difficult legal in writing, but push it to the 21st of November for second reading? And then bring back any changes that y'all feel and you've seen and it seems like what the direction of this commission would be, that would be the third meeting in November. So, would that work?
That's workable.
I mean, I think that if we can come up with a number, a distance, or a length for boats and RVs, and whether or not the commission thinks that they should be able to park on the dirt, or they should be able to improve something that's underneath the boat or RV. Those are the two things. And I think that, I don't know that we have to have too long of a discussion whether or not we agree with the second one, the improved surface part. And I think that we could probably figure out a number in the next 2 weeks, and then the attorney can tell us whether or not it's a substantial enough change that we have to go to a second reading, if you will.
A first reading.
First reading. I mean, I don't think there's no rush here, right? We want to get it right. I would rather get it right than just pass this with an understanding that we're going to fix it later.
And let me just, if you make the two changes that you're talking about, I don't think you have to go back to first reading again.
Right.
And since the notice hasn't been sent for publication yet, if we wanted to push the second reading to November 21st, we're certainly have the flexibility now to do that.
So could we pass it today and then make the changes on the second reading?
Yes.
And as long as they're not,
As long as
what we've
they're
been discussing.
basically what you're discussing today, you could do that without going back to starting all over.
That would be my recommendation.
I move to approve ordinance number 2024-01 on first reading and schedule a second reading and public hearing on November 21st, 2023.
Second?
I have a motion, a second, other question?
Yeah, did you want to bring it back in 2 weeks on the 7th or the 21st?
21st.
I didn't mention one way or the other. It doesn't matter to me.
Well, so the motion was for the 21st, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
To give them
Very
more
good.
time.
That should give us plenty of time to do a little bit of research on surfaces and lengths. Right? I know, you asked a question, though.
You're right, we did.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Motion passes 6-1. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is ordinance number 2024-04.
Okay, good evening again, City Commission, Mayor, and new City Manager Krupp. I'm Diane Friel, Principal Planner with the Community Development Department, and with me is Alicia Parinello, the Planning Manager, and we'll be presenting the proposed ordinance 2024-04, which amends the Comprehensive Development Code as it pertains to Chapter 12 sign standards and other sections of the code pertaining that are related to signs, including the Chapter 20 definitions. So after receiving direction from the administration and City Commission, staff drafted the proposed amendments to Chapter 12 sign standards to modernize and foster a more urban downtown by providing more flexibility in the Largo activity centers and multimodal corridors, which include the community redevelopment districts. And the rewrite and overhaul of Chapter 12 sign standards will advance all three areas of the strategic plan: the sustainability, public health and safety, and community pride, and also it addresses many elements of the Largo comprehensive plan. The need for modernization of the sign code first came when Largo's communications and engagement team reached out to the Planning Division to identify solutions to some of the restrictive sign standards that were currently in the code and that were dampening efforts to generate some of the excitement in the downtown during construction of the new City Hall and other developments and improvements underway. I'm sorry, can you go back a minute, Alicia? So in response to the communications and engagements request, they were looking to increase the maximum allowable coverage for some of the window signs in the downtown, which this code revision does increase them from 25% to 50% of the window area being allowed to be covered in the downtown redevelopment districts. And also vacant and unoccupied buildings may cover 100% of the window area. And this is a new specification that's allowed citywide as well as in the downtown. And then signs that are installed by governmental agencies, such as wayfinding signs that are often installed in the public right-of-way. So the proposed amendments more clearly state that these signs are for the public interest and exempt from provisions of the entire Chapter 12. So this is more clearly stated in the revisions that communications and engagement were running up against these barriers. And then signs printed or attached to construction screening are now exempt from the provisions of Chapter 12, and they may remain as long as the permit is active for the construction activity. Also, we provided more allowances for properties that are for sale or lease or under construction, and these types of flags are often flagged as content-based, so the new proposed amendment to the code rebrands them as limited duration signage, and they do not require a permit, but they do have maximum allowable sizes, heights, and number per property. And lastly, communications and engagement wanted more clear guidelines for regulations related to public art, and I'll get into that in a few of the later slides. So reasons to regulate signs. Signs are extremely important to businesses, customers, and the community, but they're tricky to regulate because they both have physical and constitutional dimensions to them. As structures, they're the physical characteristics of the sign, such as the size, type, duration, number, and location, are typically regulated and permitted by the local government where the sign's located. And at the same time, local governments must take care not to that such regulations are not based on the content of the sign, basically what the sign says. So here's some reasons, again, to regulate signs and protect the freedom of speech. In the First Amendment, there are property values that are protected and preserving community aesthetics, lessening visual clutter, and prohibiting unsafe signs that distract or create hazards. All these things are outlined in the very first section of the Chapter 12, which has the purpose and the community's values expressed as to why they want to regulate signs. So the next few slides are just examples of, this is a downtown Clearwater photo from probably the 1960s, looking east along Gulf Bay Boulevard near the Clearwater High School. And you can notice the size of the signs, and they're all trying to compete with one another and outdo each other and creating a chaotic, overwhelming scene. And this is the same photo in the same vicinity after sign standards were implemented in the city of Clearwater that resulted in less clutter. So example of a building that has, too many signs, and again, the clutter can lead to like cognitive overload and visual pollution, and a whole host of negative impacts on businesses and tourism and property values. And there's a lot of research that chaotic sign pollution can lead to more hostility and stress for people who are in those environments. This is a photo also that shows an abandoned and damaged sign and how unsightly, and they may also create some physical dangers to not only property but people if there are chunks of it falling off into the sidewalk and so forth, and they can certainly degrade the vitality of a neighborhood and business. So the city of Largo has regulated signs for the past 40 years. And the first comprehensive development code, adopted in 1983, had a separate chapter on signs. So there's been several revisions over the last 40 years to the chapter on sign standards, but the most notable ones are from fairly recently in 2007, when the City Commission decided to pass an ordinance designed to improve the aesthetic appearance of the city by requiring all freestanding pole-mounted signs to be replaced with monument-style signs, freestanding monument-style signs. And the image on the left kind of shows how there's a brochure developed. It's time to refine the sign, and a brochure getting the message across that pole signs were no longer allowed, and that the monument signs were the preferred method for freestanding signs. So any of the existing signs that did not meet these standards were given a 10-year amortization period starting in 2007 to come into conformance. The city conducted several public outreach campaigns and provided incentives and grants to encourage business owners to come into compliance and bring their non-conforming pole signs down. However, even with those incentive programs, the removal of the non-conforming pole signs was slow, and it prompted the City Commission to approve a 2-year extension to that amortization period. And when that period started to loom, the deadline for the amortization started to loom, it was still estimated that approximately 567 properties still had the non-conforming pole-mounted signs. And City Commission was concerned about the financial impact to businesses and gave staff direction to end the amortization period and prepare alternative approaches to hasten the removal of the non-conforming signs. So in 2019, which was basically going to be the end of that period, staff proposed a code amendment that would, where pole signs are still required to be removed, but only when certain triggers take place, like a permit is necessary to repair them, or the site's going to be redeveloped with a full-scale site plan review, or the property becomes vacant or abandoned. At that point, that pole sign must come down. So staff are highlighting these historical amendments to draw attention to the fact that the proposed ordinance tonight does not change any of the requirements to remove the non-conforming pole signs. So besides the major amendments regarding the removal of those pole signs, there's not been a complete rewrite or overhaul of the Chapter 12 sign standards. And the chapter suffers from a merger or consolidation of old and new attempts to streamline procedures and do quick fixes to address issues as they arose. And the next 3 slides are going to show how some of the revisions we're proposing tonight are going to address those. So the first one here is we found, after reviewing that chapter in its entirety, that there were some content-based references that were needed to be replaced with a content neutral. And those are things like, we specifically would call out like a real estate sign, and if you had to read the sign to know it's a real estate sign, that would be considered content-based. So we replaced them with content neutral language, like I mentioned before, the limited duration sign. We reorganized the chapter sections to improve the flow, and we fixed a lot of glitches that staff have identified over the years and reworded things for clarity. We added a new section called exemptions, which are things that are completely exempt from the Chapter 12. They're basically not, they're a type of sign, but they don't require the standards that are outlined in the rest of the chapter. And as I mentioned, those include like the city wayfinding signs, street address numbers, public art, construction fence screening. signs attached to construction fence screening. And the other thing, we restructured the non-conforming signs and abandoned or damaged signs section. There's, again, no change to the requirement to remove the pole signs, but the language in that section was a little confusing, so we modified that. Okay, so here's the first three items on this slide were actually came after we presented at City Commission work session in January 2023, and that was the idea of, can we expand the portable A-frame signs to not only the community redevelopment districts where they're currently allowed, but to some of the activity centers. And we were able to make that adjustment in the new code amendment. So now A-frame signs are expanded. Also to provide more flexibility for the grand opening promotional signs, and when they're in conjunction with a temporary event permit, they're now allowed to have, instead of just one sign per permit that's obtained for a grand opening, they can have an unlimited number if they have a temporary event associated with it as well. And then increased, this one came out of the increased height for the flag poles along US 19. This one came out of a hardship relief case a couple years ago where a car dealership wanted to install a flag, American flag along US 19, and we had a 35-foot height limit. And so Commission gave us direction to increase those heights for flagpoles along US 19, and now 130 feet above the crown of the road is allowed. We expanded the allowable sign types and sign dimensions in the CRDs, and we removed requirements for planning board approval of alternate master sign plans. And an alternate master sign plan is when you have like a campus, like a university campus that wants a collective sign plan for their entire campus. So before that required planning board approval, but now we have made arrangements for it just to be an administrative approval. And another highlights here, the section 20 definitions were revised to include new terms that were used in the code rewrite, and we also had to repeal certain CDC sections that reference signs but were redundant with chapter 12, and those are outlined here. Next. And this is an overview of how the current chapter 12 major headings are on the left side, and the proposed headings are on the right, and it shows kind of how we restructured the current ones and parsed it out into finer subsections, and the yellow highlights the sections of the code with the proposed changes that are most significant or extensive. So I just wanted to cover a couple of the types of, or highlight a couple of the types of signs that Commission was interested in at the work session meeting, and that's the public art and the grand opening promotional signs. And so basically in the current code, public art is only addressed or mentioned even in the chapter 20 definitions for signs, and it specifically says signs do not include works of art which in no way identify a product or service. So the new proposed code reinforces that the public art is still not considered signage, and is placed more prominently in that new section on exempt from the chapter 12 in its entirety. And we elaborated a bit more that it's the public art murals specifically are a common public art source, but they're allowed on property with permission from the owner, and they may contain text or graphics as long as it has no commercial speech. And commercial speech would be things like the actual company name or the trademark, and if that mural or graphic did contain commercial speech, it would be counted as a wall-mounted sign and subject to the sign area allowances. So here's just an example of a mural, and I wouldn't know looking at this what is going on inside that building at all, so I would say that's certainly public art and has no commercial speech. Next image shows also a mural of a Cortland corset company, and I guess the question of whether the woman is actually representing, wearing a corset is up for interpretation, and we would not include the mural image of the woman as part of the allowable sign area, but we would include the name of the company as it's displayed. So I'm going to breeze through this pretty quick because the current CDC standards for grand opening and promotional sign permits, you have to get a permit. It's a $50 fee. You're only allowed one sign per business, and there's certain height and dimensions. And the display is, you can have 15 days per permit and not to exceed 45 days a year. And currently, only the cost of grand opening sign permits are waived for new businesses, and they're allowed a 15-day display. And I'll skip this one here and go to, so with the proposed amendments to the code, if a business gets both a grand opening promotional sign and a temporary event permit, if they're both issued at the same time, on the right side it shows that you'll still be charged the $50 permit fee for the sign plus a $75 event fee, which is normal, but you could have an unlimited number of those signs per business, per event. The maximum display would still be 15 days and couldn't exceed 45 days per year. And compared to, on the left is showing how it's currently, if the business only wanted to get the promotional sign permit, it would just be the $50 fee, and they'd only be allowed one sign per business, and again, the 15 days maximum per event for 45 days. And a little different from what's currently in the code, though, is for the grand opening, we increased, for a business that has a grand opening, we've increased the display time from 15 to 30 days. And we also waived not only just the sign fee for these new businesses, but also the temporary event fee for the new business. It's like a one-time situation. Next. So this is just an example of what we, may see in the future, just for that 15-day period. And again, all of the promotional sign permits that we receive, and they want more than one sign, they're going to have to get an event permit as well, and they'll be reviewed for visibility triangle and any kind of, setback requirements and so forth. Our fire, engineering, planning, and building division all review temporary event permits. So formal actions today, we've gone to city work session in January of this year. We've gone to the Community Development Advisory Board twice, and Planning Board last a couple weeks ago, I guess, and then tonight is the City Commission first reading. So this came up at the Planning Board meeting. Why has it taken so long to get to this point where we have a draft ordinance before you? Well, comprehensive development code amendments typically take 3 months to complete if they're, a simple code amendment, but we initially, after receiving some direction from the City Commission work session, we drafted an ordinance and had I call them Band-Aid fixes, again, just kind of tweaking the sections of the code that needed to suffice some of the requests from Communications and Engagement and City Commission. We sent that first draft to our legal counsel and some stakeholders to review. And we realized, after receiving some of the review comments back, that we really needed to go back and look at the entire chapter as a whole. There was some content-based language flagged from some of the stakeholders outside of the city. And we also, plus legal hadn't really seen the code in its entirety, the chapter, so they didn't flag those initial possible content-based languages. They just were looking at the Band-Aid fixes that we presented to them. So we went back and researched model sign codes, and we decided to entirely restructure Chapter 12. It was long overdue, and we, other things that came up, though, during this basically 10-month-long period, we had a priority code amendment that dealt with the Largo Tri-City Special Area Plan, which you heard earlier tonight. That was the second reading of that plan. That took a lot of staff effort and time. And the Senate Bill 250 that was passed, which basically had us go ahead and repeal that special area plan ordinance that we'd worked so hard on. And so when that Senate bill was passed, we also said, maybe this is going to affect the sign code standards that we're writing, and we had to go through and make sure we weren't making those more restrictive in any way, and that would trigger the Senate bill from taking effect. So we finally reached a point where we revised the second draft of the entire chapter and sent it back to legal as well as some of our stakeholders to review. So that's why it's taken so long. Some of our stakeholders, we had internal City of Largo departments listed on the left. I've left one off. Our police department also looked at it for their crime prevention through environmental design. And then we had external businesses and organizations that we reached out to. The Sign Research Foundation is kind of like an industry lobbyist group, but they provided some very meaningful comments that we tried to incorporate best we could, given that the Senate bill wouldn't, 250 wouldn't allow us to make things more restrictive. And we did reach out to a handful of local sign companies and didn't receive a whole lot back. A couple of them did respond, but they're very busy with their work. So the next steps for this ordinance 2024-04 is City Commission second reading is scheduled for November 21st, and after assuming we are granted approval, we'll be updating the permit applications that are related to signs, including like the master sign permit form, the grand opening promotional signs, temporary events, and sign permits. All those forms need to be updated, and then we're going to also have a refresh on the city website and a more user-friendly sign code FAQ section. So staff is open for comments, questions.
Ordinance number 2024-04, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Largo, Florida, amending Chapter 12 sign standards of the City of Largo Comprehensive Development Code to revise regulations related to master sign plan requirements, hardship relief and appeals, portable signs, temporary signs, damaged signs, freestanding monumental signs, flags, real estate signs, construction signs, wayfinding signs, stadium/athletic field banners, murals, and signage in the community redevelopment districts, repealing subsection 15.11.3.C2, standards for donation bins, repealing subsection 15.17.8, alternate master sign plan for non-residential developments, amending section 16.6, temporary events, including tent sales and other extension of premise permits, amending section 16.6.3, restrictions to amend timeframes for temporary events, and amending sections of Chapter 20, definitions, to amend and create related definitions, providing for severability and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Do we have any cards on this?
We have one card. Anna?
Good evening, everyone, Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to be here. My name is Ana Raizeska. I'm a student of St. Petersburg College, and I'm pursuing my major in Public Policy and Administration. My address is 1118 Oak Court, Dunedin, Florida, 34698. And I'm here to talk in favor of agenda item number 26, ordinance number 2024-24. And based on my research and after meeting with Principal Planner Diane, I agree with this ordinance. I agree that Chapter 12 and Chapter 20 need to be updated and modernized using more clear language. And during my research, I learned the importance of sign regulations and the need to repeal some of the old strict sign regulations, and how these regulations improve the appearance and reduce the visual clutter. I also want to thank Diane and the City Clerk Brunner for their help and support during my school project, and thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you. Any questions from the commission? Commissioner Johnson.
Great job on this code. I read a lot of code every day, and you did a great job on this. One thing I was a little confused on, I saw the damage of signs considered damage if it's more than 25% of the structural members or the face. If I have a pole sign that's damaged by 25%, I could not figure out do I have to replace it or just repair it. I saw both.
Well, if the pole sign that's damaged requires a permit to repair, it has to be replaced. It has to come down. But if it's cosmetic, like painting and, scraping it for rust and that kind of thing, then the repairs could take place with no permit and the pole sign could remain. Does that answer your question?
I think so. Yeah, I guess my concern is that we'll have people trying to, incentive to work without a permit on something like this. Just, we may have some issues with that definition and whether they think they need a permit or not, but I absolutely understand the intent. So it just was a little unclear to me. Thank you for clarifying.
Thank you. I had a couple questions. First, you mentioned the flagpoles above the crown of the road for US 19. That's unchanged, right? We changed that before, or is that?
No, that's all new. Right now, it's still 35 feet, and I'm not sure if it even says above the crown of the road currently.
Okay, so the way I remember it was we talked about 75 feet above the crown of the road, not 130 feet above the crown of the road. The discussion was initially business wanted a 200-foot flagpole or something like that. And this would get them that 200-foot flagpole, and we talked at some length about that. And we regulated either 35 feet or 75 feet anywhere else in the city, and we came up with a number of 75 feet above the crown of the road, which would essentially make that height above the road. So unless I'm wrong in my recollection, that's what kind of the direction that we gave going forward to work towards that number, not 130 feet. Anybody else that was here remember that?
That's
Yeah.
my memory.
So, to the mayor's point, if there's a business that's frontage on US 19 at an overpass, it's 130 foot above the crown at the top of the overpass?
That's correct.
Which is another 30 feet?
Correct.
So we're talking 160 to 180 feet, which again is absolutely not what I remember wanting. I think 75 feet max is more than, because if it's above the crown at 30 feet, you're still at 100 plus feet.
Yeah, signage above the crown of the road along US 19 is like 14 feet above the crown for signage. And so I think something along those lines. Look at what we allow for, the rest of the city. And I think, is that 35 or 75, do you know?
The flagpole height, you
Yeah,
mean, is
flagpoles, right.
35 feet for the rest of the city, is the
So-
maximum.
So something along those
Yep.
lines above the crown of the road, I think, to me, would make sense. I could see going a little bit bigger than that, but 130 feet above the crown isn't, I think, what we had in mind. So, I
Is
don't know.
that- Oh, pardon me, sorry.
Sure.
That would not change the title block if we were to revisit that number. So I just want to verify with our city attorney, staff would be able to revisit that before second reading, and that number, I think we were just kind of assessing other flagpoles along other highways is where we arrived at that
We don't
number.
have to have the tallest pole.
Yep, we don't. So if that's something.
Right, I understand.
Just the biggest
Because we did talk at some length about that subject. There was, you mentioned window signage. I know that historically, it's been 25% of the window can be sign space or whatever. Tell me again how that's going to be changing.
The 25% of the window glass coverage will continue to be the maximum allowed throughout the city, inside the community redevelopment district. Up to 50% of that sign, of the glass area could be covered with
Okay,
window signs.
And why is that?
We just, looking at some of the surrounding communities that tend to, St. Pete, for example, along Central Avenue, they do, a lot of those commercial establishments do have more of the window signage that's covering. A lot of it is kind of tends to be more decorative, but related to the business itself. And so we felt that would just, by increasing that percentage from 25 to 50% would be reasonable to accommodate a more urban downtown.
Okay. On the mural section, I'm going to have to put my glasses on because it's a small print. I'm getting older. But on the mural section, it says a mural is a sign only if related by language, logo, you touched on this, pictorial depiction or advertisement. And then it seems to contradict with the work of art statement. So it says work of art shall not be counted as signage and may contain graphics or text as long as the art has no commercial speech. So I understand, it's tricky to determine what's a mural and what's signage and what's a work of art. But I think when we talked about this again at some length at that work session, we said like the corset thing. I mean, she's wearing a corset, right? But it's artwork, and we're just counting the wordage. And if you've got a store that sells pets, and you want to do an aquarium scene on the side of your building, it's clearly related to your business, but I think that we'll consider that artwork, except for where it says aquarium inside or whatever. Is that what this is saying?
Yes, that is what we're proposing.
Okay, and that's what I thought. I just it seems to, if it says a mural's a sign, if it's related by pictorial depiction, it's implying that the mural may become a sign if I paint, fish on the side of a store that sells fish or whatever. Am I incorrect?
No, it's this line that we have to try to draw. So I can tell you there was a case in Clearwater where a bait and tackle shop had fish drawn on the side of their building, and the judge in that case determined that was not a sign.
Right.
The thing is, people are innovative, and when they get to being artistic, sometimes they can, create something that seems like it's attracting people to the business. And all, we can, it's very difficult to write this language and draw very clear lines. It's going to have to be in the application. But then again, some people can put the fish on the side, and then right in the middle of it, right, pen, reels are sold here, you know? So it's difficult to necessarily, to write it so precise. We have to have some ability to apply it and implement it in a way that it applies to the person that writes pen reels for sale here, and we don't apply it to the person that has fish on the side and is artistic mural, and they sell fish in the inside the shop.
As long as y'all are happy with it as far as, you know, because it seemed like it says two different things to me.
Well, in the past, staff has been taking the language that's in the definition section for the artwork, or actually, I'm sorry, it's for under signs. And it says, signs do not include works of art which in no way identify a product or service. So in the past, like you mentioned, we've kind of interpreted it like if it's a veterinarian, they have cats on the side of the building, that would be advertising their product. But we're kind of backing off of that and saying that only if it's has like the trademark name of the business or a symbol that like Starbucks or something that's recognized and trademarked, then we would count that as wall signage. But otherwise, we're not going to be interpreting the artwork itself as related to the business.
Okay. I think that's the direction that was given to, so it's good, perfect. My last question, I think, is around pole signs and abandoned buildings. What is the process? I think that in the past, I know that we've contacted property owners after the place had been empty for over 180 days and said, you're no longer in compliance, you have X amount of time to take that sign down, and gone through like an enforcement type phase after the property's abandoned. I can think of two across the street from each other that have pole signs still. Both of them have faces gone from their pole signs. There's people shaking their heads in the audience that knows what signs I'm talking about. And I don't know how long those buildings have been abandoned or empty. So I guess my question is, do you know if we're taking proactive measures to require those businesses rather than just waiting until they get redeveloped, because then we might have a fight on our hands?
We actually have our community standards manager available to help answer that question. I do know that there were some, unrelated to your specific question, but there were some code cases that were being held up to determine how we are moving forward with this proposed amendment. But we do have Chase available if he wouldn't mind answering those questions related to the enforcement side.
Thank you.
Yes, so specifically when it comes to those abandoned signs, when those cases were brought before the special magistrate, because we didn't have specific definitions of those types of signs, the magistrate didn't find those particular cases in violation. So we've basically been holding off on those cases until we get an updated definition on the different types of signs to bring those cases forward to the magistrate.
So do these changes include that more clear definition?
Yes, they've added some definitions to where we would be able to bring those cases forward to the magistrate again.
Very good. Thank you. Any other questions?
I move to approve ordinance number 2024-04 on first reading and schedule a second reading and public hearing on November 21st, 2023.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, and just for clarification, we're going to look at that flagpole above US 19 thing.
Yes,
And
correct.
Thank you very much for all of your work on this. I know it's been a long process, but thank you. I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you.
And just for the record, so we do change the provision with regard to the flags on adjacent to US 19. That's not a substantial change, and we want to go back to first reading.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Zimmett, anything more
That
to
was
add?
my only comment.
All right. Well, you could have waited till I called you.
I know.
Commissioner Holmes.
I've got nothing.
Commissioner Gerard.
I want to thank the city for for making it possible for myself and for Chris Hawks to come up to DC as part of the Florida League of Cities. The fast fly-in. We spent 2 hours this morning with the National League of Cities getting a lot of background and very useful information, and then spent the rest of the day visiting our Congress people. We'll be out there again tomorrow. It's a very special time to be in Washington seeing our Congress people, and I really do appreciate the city doing this. Not every city does it, and we're the only city in Pinellas right now that's up here, so it's important. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and thank you again for representing us well up there. Commissioner Robinson.
Thank you. I see that whoever's showing Commissioner Gerard on Zoom there needs an update on their computer. So I'm sure, I met with the IT director this morning. I'm sure we'd appreciate it if that was on. But I don't think I have anything else besides my public service announcement.
All right. Vice Mayor Holt.
Yes, I'd just like to recognize all of our proclamations again. Today, the Largo Historical Society, Frida Ware from our domestic violence person, and Friends of Libraries, and their continuing support of our library, and planning board. And then all of you all that did a fantastic job on, I know we had some pretty tough situations here today, and all the hard work that you all do all the time and help us get through these meetings and understand where you're coming from and our citizens are coming home. But thank you all. That's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson.
I just wanted to congratulate one of my engineers who had just welcomed two babies, twin babies, a boy and a girl, Elijah Griffin and Olivia Joy O'Berry. So congratulations to Brian and his family. It's very exciting. I'm a twin fan. I have twin granddaughters, so I'm a twin fan. I always got to give them a shout out. So thank you. That's all. Thank you.
Commissioner Smith.
Just wanted to say also thank you to the Friends of the Largo Library. $96,000 is an awesome check to get from them. They do so much over there, and if you get an opportunity or anybody would love to is interested in volunteering, I know Casey and them would love to have you over there to help out. Even if it's a couple hours a day or a week or whatever, it's a cool thing to do, and visit their book sale, because I'll tell you, you will never find books cheaper. Well, I shouldn't say that. Probably won't find books cheaper. They got some really good deals, and when they do that, it's so cool to see people come out and say, you know, I saved up. I had one lady who said, I saved up all month to be able to go there and use what her savings was to just buy some books. And walking out there with a cart full of books was a cool experience. So I thank them for everything they do and keep it up. The other was the domestic violence. I thank them for everything they do. As having a friend who went through a situation like that, and having to hear the horror stories that they had to deal with, it just moves you. And I hope that anybody who needs assistance reaches out to our police department or seeks help with the organization, because speaking up does save lives. So I commend them and anybody else that can step up and get out of that out of a horrible situation that's being presented to them. And also, if you know someone who is, please don't think you're being mean to them, because you're probably, like I said, saving their life. The other is this, what was it, Saturday? I think it is. This Sunday, on the 22nd, at Central Park, they're going to be hosting a Florida Flow Fest. It is an all-day festival featuring workshops and performances in flow art, dance, and yoga. Now, I don't do yoga, but I think it'd be a cool thing. It's a new thing that I have never heard about, and I think it'd be a great opportunity for citizens to get out there and see it. It's this Sunday, the 22nd, from 10 in the morning till 8 o'clock at night. So get out there and enjoy a Sunday out in our Central Park, and maybe take up some yoga or dance.
You better be there.
I'll try.
Are you going to wear yoga pants?
That is not happening.
All right, moving on.
Yeah, let's go a little there. You know me too well. And the last is Miley Kuiper was talking about the puppy with SPCA. I think it's horrible. I've said multiple times, I think this is against puppy stores. I don't support them. I can't make an ordinance like she was asking us to do, but I think that made us look horrible in the press, and when it has Largo next to our name, even though it's not the city of Largo, I think it was horrible. And to go on your page on Facebook and block comments and redo a post because of that, I think is horrible to do, and just shows you that maybe you should have done a little bit more education to people on what this was. So, again, I'm horrified by that, but I thank Miley Kuiper for stepping up and speaking on that subject. And I thank all the citizens tonight who came and spoke about topics that were on the agenda. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank the Kara and the special events team. There was a little Largo Live concert in Ulmer Park last Friday night. It was a beautiful, it was like, there was cool weather here. It was really nice, and the music was awesome, and the food was good as well. So they did a great job on that little concert in Ulmer Park for Largo Live. And there's more shows coming soon around the city. Mr. Kerp.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank the entire city team for the very warm welcome that I've received this week. I'm very grateful for the reception. Thank you to the commission for your welcome, and also to the citizens of Largo. I've enjoyed meeting many of you so far. Look forward to engaging with the rest of you. And finally, a quick shout out to my wife on our wedding anniversary today. I'm here only because she has taken on the local parenting responsibilities for 4 adolescent teens and high schoolers at home. And if I did not mention her tonight, I'd be in even more trouble than I am. So again, thanks to her.
Happy anniversary.
Well, thank you.
Well, wait a minute, then I feel like I've got to also say that my anniversary is today. And my wife is in California too, so we're not
I hope she's not watching.
I hope she isn't either. I hope she has something better to do.
Any action items?
No, I didn't have any.
All right, meeting is adjourned.
What if she is?